197. Jesus.
The NBA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Game Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog is offering a ton of fun markets this week for the PGA Championship that you cannot find anywhere else. So sign up with the promo code NBA SGPN to claim your special pick and a first-time deposit offer of $250 in bonus cash. Underdog Fantasy promo code NBA SGPN. We're also brought to you by the Mega Memorial Merch Sale. 15% off everything in the SGPN merch store with the promo code SGPNMay. And welcome, everybody, to the NBA Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Game Podcast Network. It is currently Saturday afternoon, roughly noon Eastern Time on May 18th. I'm your host of the episode, Reichel, once again joined by Lonte Smith, and together we're going to cover the upcoming weekend games. So just for clarification, for the actual title of this episode, we're going to be covering the one Saturday game, which is Game 6 between the Thunder and the Mavericks, and we are also going to cover Game 7 between the Pacers and the Knicks, as well as the Timberwolves and the Nuggets. Those games taking place on Sunday. So 3 games on the card. We're going to cover all of them. Lonte, how's it going with you?
Not bad, man. It's supposed to be a good weekend. We got 2 Game 7s, potentially 3 if OKC takes care of business in Dallas. So, man, yeah, great time to be a fan of the NBA. Couldn't be looking forward to it anymore.
Definitely true. Looking forward to at least the 2 Game 7s. A reminder, though, since the Thunder game will be taking place tonight, that does mean that a hypothetical Wood Game 7 would be, I'd say, the following Monday, correct? It would be Monday?
Travel. Yeah, Monday, I would think.
So the point is we would cover that in a separate episode next week. So we don't have to worry about that regardless of who wins. We're going to cover that game anyway. Lonte, do want to ask you, though, just in general, which Game 7 are you more excited for out of the 2?
I would say Nuggets Wolves.
Okay.
The Knicks kind of lost a little luster with Josh Hart. I'm not sure what his status is, but I think the intensity level and attention to detail will be more fixated on that Minnesota and Denver game, just because they're similar in styles. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, Denver's not as physical, but I feel like it'll be a better game versus the Knicks. I mean, the Knicks have the opportunity to blow them out. I mean, the Pacers haven't performed well on the road for a full 48. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to Denver and Minnesota the most.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page there, but it is also ironic because it has the highest spread and the lowest total, and that's the game we're the most excited for. Out of the 3, right, including the Game 6 between the Thunder and the Mavericks. Point is, though, for the actual, by the way, schedule for this episode, instead of doing the recap of the Game 6 from yesterday in the Knicks game, instead of doing that to start the show, we're actually going to save that for the Game 7. We feel like it would make more sense to just segue into it for the Game 7. So as a result, we're going to cover the Thunder Mavericks game first that's taking place today. Then we're going to cover the recap of Game 6 for the Knicks game, and that'll bleed into the preview of Game 7. So either way, before we get into any of the actual previews of those 3 games, do want to remind you once again that we have a great Mega Memorial Day merch sale, which is going to be 15% of everything in the merch store. Promo code SGPN May. So if you want to get your NBA Gambling Podcast merch, you want to get some t-shirts, you want to get some sweatshirts, you want to get a lot of high-quality merchandise available at the SGPN merch store, you know where to go, and recommend you getting yourself some piece of NBA Gambling Podcast memorabilia. Anyway, point is, looking at the actual game for Saturday, the only game on the card, you have the Thunder taking on the Mavericks. The Mavericks are laying 3.5 at home, and the over-under set at 208.5. We saw the series kind of take a couple of turns over the last couple games, as we saw the Mavericks dominate at home, and then they choked away the entire game, and the Thunder were able to steal it. Then we saw the Mavericks dominate once again in OKC, but this time they didn't choke it, and they were able to hold on as they were able to steal home court advantage once again. So, Lonte, we've seen road teams actually have some success so far in this series. I believe the road team is, I'm trying to remember exactly. The road team is, what, 3-2 in the series?
They won. Dallas won 2, and OKC won. Yeah. OKC
So
won
the
1.
road team is 3-2, and we're going to see if potentially they can make it 4-2 if the Thunder go into force Game 7. But Lonte, it does seem like the Mavericks have figured out this Thunder team somewhat, as they have won 3 of the last 4. But I am going to ask you, Lonte, who are you picking to win this Game 6? Is the series over, or are we headed back for another Game 7?
Yeah, I think it'll be a highly competitive game. I like Dallas, though. I think Dallas I think if you take away, I mean, I know we can do this for pretty much anything, but Dallas has been the more dominant team. If you take away the first game, which obviously OKC dominated, and the fourth quarter of Game 3, did OKC win Game 3, right? Or Game 4? I'm sorry. Yeah, if you take away those two like data points, then you'll see that Dallas has been the superior team. I mean, they blew that game in the fourth quarter where they let SGA kind of get loose and turn into, Michael Jordan. But other than that, I mean, Dallas has been a better team, and you can make a debate that their 2 best players haven't been their 2 best players. I mean, PJ Washington has been the best player in the series by far, I would say, and that's with Luka and Kyrie being.
I would say most consistent, because I think Luka the last 2 games is kind of.
Yeah. I'll rephrase that. That's a good point. Yeah, so he's been the better consistent, most.
He's been better than Kyrie.
No, more, most definitely. I mean, and I think Lively's not getting a lot of credit, but he's been great, active on the boards. He's been knocking down his free throws. I think that's big. Him and Gafford actually make a good tandem, and I think that's the weakness of what. Obviously, we knew that coming in, that was going to be the weakness for OKC. But I do think Dallas takes care of business tonight, man. OKC just doesn't. I don't know if those guys are going to show up, but they haven't been helping SGA at all. It's kind of been like standing around watching. They got good looks. Don't get me wrong, but that's mixed in with kind of Dallas living with some of those stuff. Living with some of that stuff. Like the Lou Dort threes, I'm pretty sure they'll live with. The Jalen Williams threes, the J. Will threes, I'm pretty sure they'll live with.
I think they'll live with anything Jalen's doing right now, to be honest.
Yeah. Anything other than the SGA kind of like getting to the free throw line, I think they'll be able to live with. So I think Dallas comes in. I think they'll put together a complete game. I think the narrative is Kyrie's never lost a closeout game. We saw them in a similar spot against the Clippers, and they closed them out. I think they do the same here. I think it'll be a low-scoring, grind-out type of game. I think that's the way Dallas wants to play. They don't want to let the depth of OKC kind of get into play later in the game. And if they can keep them off the free throw line, specifically SGA, I think they got a good shot to win by 6 or 7 points here. So I like Dallas. I think we see a low-scoring game. I think Luka and Kyrie close them out.
Yeah, so I'm going to agree in this one. I saw it open up at 4.5 or 4. Now it's down to 3.5. But at the end of the day, you touched on it. The supporting cast for Oklahoma City's done absolutely nothing. And it's kind of weird because Oklahoma City's been a decent three-point shooting and outside shooting team all year. And Dallas is just content with giving up those shots, and nobody can hit them. So it's like Oklahoma City just forgot how to shoot. But you're looking at the overall, I'd say, issue with Oklahoma City for the series, besides the lack of proper supporting cast performances, is the fact that it's been a very physical series with a lot of low-scoring games, and Dallas is a better rebounding team. It's as simple as that. It feels to me like even though Dallas is able to get a lot of high-quality opportunities because of Luka and his playmaking, it does seem like Gafford and Lively have been able to kind of dominate the interior for most of the series. Chet's by himself out there. They don't have any backup center, and you're looking at just how Dallas has been able to accumulate second chance points and how they're able to get extra possessions because they crash the offensive glass. Oklahoma City gets those occasionally, but it does feel like when games are going to be this low scoring, when barely any of these games are getting over 206 and the last 2 games end up landing below 197, you need to maximize every possession. And Oklahoma City, I just feel like, is getting outworked on the glass. That's been a story in the series. So I think that's another reason why I do like Dallas in this game, which is going to take me into something I wanted to mention a couple days ago, right after Game 5, but now I have the opportunity to do it now. I was going to save it for the Game 6 preview. I hope you enjoyed the Gordon Hayward trade, Oklahoma City, because he's not playing. Like, I don't know what you did during the trade deadline. We were talking about it the entire season, about Oklahoma City had no center depth. And Dallas needed center depth, and Dallas traded for Gafford. They made a move to try to help with the front court. Oklahoma City just sat there, did absolutely nothing, traded for a veteran in Gordon Hayward, who I do not think has played a single second over the last 2-3 games. So I don't know what the point was of getting Gordon Hayward. I think they were trying to actually shed some salary long-term. But the point is, it felt like Oklahoma City, as the 1 seed, they turned out to be the 1 seed in the West. They had a great opportunity to at least I'd say, bolster the front court to give them a serious chance of competing in the Western Conference for a potential NBA final spot. And it just hasn't happened. Gordon Hayward has played, going through the actual games here, he has not played the last 2 games. He's played less than 11 minutes in 7 playoff games this season. You know how many points he scored in the 7 playoff games he's played in?
I know this series specifically, he hasn't scored any. I'll say 2.
He scored 0 points.
Oh, okay.
In the entire playoffs. He scored 0 points. He's played 7 playoff games.
Yeah.
What were you trying to do? Like, I know Presti has done a great job of accumulating draft picks. At some point, you got to cash in. And if your team's going to be a top 3 seed minimum, a top 1 seed ceiling, which they turned out to be, can you at least try to do something that'll help your team make the Western Conference Finals? I get you could argue your team's young and maybe you want to wait it out, but you have so many draft picks. Gafford didn't really go for that much. You really could have made a move for any center of any kind, and instead you ended up with Gordon Hayward, who's given you literally nothing for the entire playoffs, and he has been a healthy scratch for the last 2 games. That's what annoys me watching this series. Oklahoma City just doing nothing at the trade deadline.
Yeah, I think what they were going for is, although they wanted to kind of bolster that team, I think they're more concerned with like continuity. That's just the only thing that I can think about. And they didn't want anybody to come in because obviously one guy can ruin, the continuity and different things of that magnitude.
But
yeah, I mean, and, they're a young team, so they probably were worried about the mesh. I'm agreeing with you, but I'm just saying, like, from the other side, I can kind of see like, okay, they didn't want to bring in a guy or two who, didn't fit with what they wanted to do. But again, I mean, they were the number 1 seed for majority of the year. So you got to know that you're going to go against these bigger teams, and maybe they're content with, winning the way they are. And I mean, they're not out of this series by any means.
With it, just leave the guy you traded for on the bench. Like, the point is it involves roster flexibility, and you have none of it because you don't have any center.
Yeah, and Tim Bontemps, I think, on from ESPN, he said that they both made trades with the Charlotte Hornets for forwards, and PJ Washington, I think, has 92 points, and Gordon Hayward has 0 in the series.
Yeah,
so
the point is the Mavericks traded for a power forward in Washington and a center. They were actually willing to make moves to address the front court, and I don't think anybody expected Washington to be this good in the series, but the point is they have traded for 2 impact players from what we've seen so far in the playoffs, and Oklahoma City's gotten nothing. And I feel like even though, once again, this team's not going anywhere, long-term they're going to be dangerous in the Western Conference for a decade and change because of Shea and all the draft picks they have and the youth. It's just crazy they went to the deadline and did nothing besides trading for a veteran who's never going to play.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I just find that insane.
100%. Yeah.
So 100%. I'm going to go with Dallas in this game. When the series started, I picked Dallas in 6. So I'm not going to, change my opinion when it's played out the way that I thought it was going to. Shea's been great. I'll give him his props there. The issue is nobody else has really done anything. Jalen Williams, very disappointing so far in the series. No way around it. I know he had a decent stretch in the 4th quarter of game 4. But I think he had an and one, a dunk there, which might have been a double dribble, but he got a dunk baseline out of it. But the point is he had like basically a good 5-minute stretch. That's basically it. He hasn't really done anything. Giddey's been benched. I thought he was actually pretty good.
Yeah, he was.
5 off the bench.
He was.
So, but the point is he still doesn't play more than like 15 minutes a game. So he's still not a big factor here. And you're just going down the line. Chet's been kind of hit or miss.
Can't hit a 3.
I guess defensively he's been solid with rim protection, but offensively we kind of hope to see a bit more.
Yeah.
They don't have many options. And the dangerous part for Oklahoma City is the fact that Dallas is up 3-2, and Kyrie's done nothing for the last 3 games, and they're still down 3-2. And you mentioned that that Kyrie is undefeated in closeout games, 13-0, I think.
Yeah, right? I'm not 100% sure on the number. Yeah, I think it might be. Yeah,
I think it was 12 or 13. Then he beat the Clippers, I think.
Okay, yeah. Maybe.
But I'll have to look that up. Point is, though, Kyrie's undefeated with a large sample size in closeout games. Maybe he shows up for once. I think Dallas wins the game, though, and I think they do win the series. For the total, though, 208.5. I like the under. Every game's been disgusting. We have a hard time reaching 200 now. I guess the counterpoint is Oklahoma City's getting good shots, just nobody getting a shot.
They are.
So if they actually make the open looks, then this game should go over. But I think Dallas, if they're going to win, is going to make this game ugly. It'll be in the half court. The refs might let them kill each other. So I like the under in this game. You?
Yeah, I like the under as well. I like the first half under even more. I just think that Dallas can play. They've been playing with a lot more tempo this season, but I think in this series they know where their bread is buttered in the half court, and obviously you don't want to run Luka when he's dealing with all those injuries. So they want to get it in a half court setting, which OKC is pretty good in the half court setting as well. But I just think that they're not as efficient as Dallas is. So I like Dallas to kind of slow the game down, snail's pace, kind of make OKC work on the defensive end for 16, 17 seconds. And they're building a wall, so they're kind of like living like although they're getting those open shots, it is kind of what they want in their defensive scheme. I mean, they want Dort shooting, they want even J Dub. I mean, I would live with him shooting a three. Chet's not hitting anything, so I mean, they're living with whatever. Anybody outside of Isaiah Joe and even SGA, like I would be content with him. I mean, obviously, you don't want to leave him open, but I would be content with him shooting threes.
Shots to guys that they feel comfortable letting shoot.
Right, and that's fine. I think that has to do with what they want to do. I don't think it's just they're just letting OKC kind of shoot those jumpers. I think that's what they want to do. So I think that those jumpers, a few of them will fall. But ultimately, I think that Dallas kind of locks down defensively, and we see a low-scoring game. I think we struggle with both teams getting to 100.
Yeah, well, segueing from that into player props, I'm going to ask you, since it sounds like you like a lot of unders for this game for some players, do you want to keep riding the Kyrie train for the unders, or do you want to go with a potential over because it's a closeout game and he's been good in closeout games?
Yeah, I'm kind of indifferent on it. But the one under that I do like is going to be Lou Dort. Lou Dort, he has this started at it's 11.5. I mean, it started at what 9.5, 10 for his player.
He's going over in back-to-back games, but his efficiency's been terrible.
Yeah, like 4. He's like 4 of 10, 4 of 11, and a lot of those shots are like air balls. And he got to the line 6 times, I think, in game 4, and that was like 4 less times than what he has the whole playoffs. I think he shot 10 free throws the whole playoffs outside of that game, and then he shot 6. So that pretty much put him over. And like I said, he's getting no shots, and I think he can knock down 1 or 2. But outside of that, man, I don't think so. He hasn't shot good on the road, and I think that they'll be able to use some of his energy on the defensive end. And he's been in foul trouble. I mean, he's had 5 or more fouls in 4 to 5 games, and a couple of those he picked up early. So he's liable to be on the bench early if Luka's aggressive offensively. So I like him under that 11.5. And I guess that coincides with another one, man. I like Isaiah Joe over 1.5 threes made. Yeah. He's got good looks. Like we mentioned, he's the only guy that I kind of would count on to knock down some threes. His
efficiency has not been good, but the volume
hasn't there. It hasn't. And he has, I think he's made 2 or more in 3 to 5 game series. So I like him to get going. He's got an uptick in minutes with getting a start and kind of Giddey being on the back burner. So I like him over 1.5 threes. Those are 2 of the OKC ones I like. Dallas, I like Luka over 19.5 rebounds and assists. I mean, he's been grabbing rebounds like in the first quarter, first half. He's been killing it. So he's been close to double digits in the last few games. He's had 20 or more in 3 to 5 games. He had back-to-back triple doubles. So I think we see he looks a little bit healthier, not complaining a lot to the referees, kind of just playing his game. I think you mentioned that like 4 or 5 times.
He's not complaining to the referees. What? Huh?
Yeah, you didn't see that game, man. He was like 9.
I think it's because they were winning the entire way through.
No, man, that really doesn't. That doesn't matter with Luka. He's always like on tilt with the refs, but he settled down a lot, and he even said in the post game that he kind of just wanted to get back to the game he loved, and the cliche stuff. So.
I remember that when I cashed my technical fouls in the regular season on Luka for that.
Yeah, but yeah, he's been good, especially dishing the ball, getting everybody going. You see the lob passes to Derek Jones and even Derek Lively.
5 lobs in the first half last game.
Yeah, 6 total. I think that was the most they had in the playoff series. So yeah, man, I like Luka to kind of orchestrate the ball, and get everybody going, and he'll get his offense whenever he gets it. So I like him over 19.5 rebounds and assists as well.
Yeah, I can't really go against Luka. A couple ways to get there, too. If he has a big game on the boards, if he has like 12 rebounds, are in good shape anyway. So I think that's definitely an option. The center rotation is interesting for Dallas because either Gafford or Lively could have big games. So you don't exactly know how that's going to work out. But I think I might be tempted by Kyrie first quarter under 4.5 points in this game. It's at -115 on DraftKings, and he's been under in each of the last 10 games. We know even when he plays well, he's a slow starter. So you're looking at a guy who kind of defers early, and then the question is in the second half if he's going to wake up and if he's going to try to actually get his own shots. But first quarter under 4.5 points, 10 straight for Kyrie going under. So I got to mention it. He's going to probably play close to 9 to 10 minutes in the first quarter, so he's not even going to play the entire first quarter. I think that's definitely tempting. So I consider that based on the overall just streak that he's on for the trend. Besides that, though, looking at some other options, I know early in the series, Shea R.A. was very solid. That's recently cooled off, but I quickly just want to see what that number is being set at now. Because if we end up seeing Oklahoma City make even a couple of open jump shots, Shea really should be able to get a couple of extra assists in that game. And he has actually done well. I think I do like the over in this, because even with Oklahoma City struggling offensively, he did have 14 last game. He had 8 assists and 6 rebounds. He has gone over this number in 4 of the 5 games so far in the series, and the one exception, he had exactly 13 in game 4. So I don't mind Shea over RA, because I do think even though Oklahoma City's been missing a bunch of shots, we do know the quality of shots have been there.
I agree,
and they are kind of loading up on Shea to create a wall, and they're funneling shots to other guys. So the assist opportunities are there. We just need a couple more to go Shea's way. But the point is he's been getting there anyway. So with that being the case, I do think that 13.5 does feel a little bit low, actually. I like the over there at minus 135. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think his assist totals would have been a lot higher if some of those shots would have been falling. He's been rebounding the ball really well. He has to, because Chet hasn't had double-digit rebounds, I think, since game 1 of the series.
Sounds right.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's taking it upon himself to rebound. And they're staggering a lot of his minutes with that second unit as well. If you notice, when they bring those guys in, I think they're resting J-Dub first and then letting him play with that second unit. So, I can agree with that. I might just take his assist prop.
That's 6.5 at even money. I don't mind that either.
Yeah, I might like that a little bit better. But I agree with everything that you said. I mean, everything is lined up for him to go well with it.
Yeah, I see 7.5 assists for Shea is at plus 190. For reference, by the way, he's had at least 8 in 3 of the 5 games. To go through his potential assists, though, starting from the most recent game to the start of the series, 16, 15, 14, 14, 13. In other words, they're missing more than half the shots that he basically gives his teammates. So the assist might be worth a look for Shea in that game. I don't have anything else to add, though. You have anything else you want to talk about?
No, that's it, man. I think we're looking forward to a good game. That building is going to be electric. Dallas, underrated home crowd. Underrated home crowd. So I think they'll be ready to go.
Definitely true. Now, a reminder for the actual format of this episode. Now we're going to preview Game 7 of the Knicks series against the Pacers. But because of that, we are going to recap what happened in Game 6. However, before we get into any of that, do want to remind you once again that we are brought to you by NYRA. Because today, you have the Preakness, and you can bet the second jewel of the Triple Crown with NYRA bets. So sign up today for a $200 deposit bonus with promo code SGPN200. Join now to claim your $200 deposit bonus just in time for the Preakness at nyrabets.com/SGPN200. Gear up for Black-Eyed Susan Day at Pimlico, which I think might have happened already, actually. And boost your Preakness bankroll with NYRA bets. Opt in and bet at least $150 each on Belmont at the Big A and Pimlico on Friday. That did already happen. For a $30 bonus, win or lose. Earn more on the Preakness Stakes. Bet at least $200 each on Belmont at the Big A and Pimlico. For a $4 bonus, win or lose. Opt in to win at nyrabets.com. That's not all, though. Score big with a 20% bonus on your ticket winnings by hitting an exacta on any or all races at Belmont at the Big A on Sunday. So get in and get your bonuses at nyrabets.com/SGPN200. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. The NBA playoffs are here, and our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy, wants to make it a lot more interesting because Underdog is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. Playing their pick'em game is as simple as selecting higher or lower on player stats like points, rebounds, assists, and so much more. Make entries of all basketball or mix and match across your favorite sports. You can win a ton of times your money, and it's a ton of fun. Underdog's available in 30+ states, including California, Texas, and even Canada. They also have a lot of great options. I mentioned before for basketball. They have NBA and WNBA. Don't forget to check out the WNBA Gambling Podcast. But they have a lot of options. They have first quarter points. They have fantasy score. They have really anything you can think of for Underdog, and that's why we constantly do lineups with them, because they have so many options that even books don't have. They have first half points per game, second. They have a lot of options. A lot they can confirm that. They just have a bunch of stuff for every NBA game. But looking at the promos that they're having, they have a lot of great promos for the playoffs, bonus cash airdrops, specials, giveaways, and more than the NBA playoffs. So make sure to follow Underdog Picks on Twitter. Keep an eye out. Underdog's available in 30-plus states, including California, Texas, and Canada. They also just launched Champions, their player versus player format in Florida. So sign up with the promo code NBA SGPN. Promo code NBA SGPN to claim your special pick and a first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. Underdog Fantasy, promo code NBA SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the NBA Gambling Podcast. Just finished previewing the Saturday game between the Thunder and the Mavericks. Now it's time to look ahead to the 2-game sevens. Starting off with the first game on the slate, you have the afternoon game between the Pacers and the Knicks, taking place at around 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, I mentioned it before the actual break. We were going to recap Game 6 now, because we figured it would make more sense to segue into Game 7. So, Lonte, before we get into the actual Game 7 lines for the total and the side, we saw the Pacers win comfortably in Game 6 last night. The Knicks hung in there, and then they scored 5 points in the final 6 minutes of the first half, and the game was basically over. So I'm going to ask you, Lonte, we've seen the home teams dominate the series. The home teams have actually won every game of this series. What are your takeaways from Game 6? And what is your concern level for the Knicks and for the Pacers going into Game 7?
You just can't fake. I mean, you can't put a number or a metric on desperation. And I think both of these teams have responded well when their back was against the wall. I mean, specifically Indiana more so than New York, because New York had that lead, that 2-0 lead going into Indiana. So, I mean, I'm not really concerned. I wasn't really concerned with them losing. I'm more concerned with the status of Josh Hart than anything. Because you saw him take I don't know. Say it again.
I said it looked rough.
Yeah, and he was holding that thing. They put I don't know if there was some kind of tape that
medical tape or whatever. They put on.
I don't know what it was, but yeah, he was clearly just ailing on the sideline, and I'm not sure if that quick turnaround is going to help. And maybe it's something that he just needs to take that full day off and not do anything or whatever. But I mean, as far as the game flow, I mean, I thought Indiana came out just like we thought they would, just like we thought the New York Knicks would come out in Game 5. I don't think anything about the game surprised me at all. I mean, Indiana was just more desperate team. They played desperate, which is what you're supposed to do when your backs are against the wall. So outside of that, Scott, I mean, nothing really surprised me. I mean, I thought the Pacers would win. The Knicks put up a decent fight, although Brunson wasn't good in the first half. I think he scored 25 of his points in the second half.
I think he started 2 for 13.
Yeah, he missed his last 11, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was
first half, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, outside of that, Scott, nothing really surprised me. I thought Indiana's role players played good. I mean, McConnell was great. He's been great all playoffs. Halliburton kind of got let off the hook a little bit because he wasn't great like I thought he would be. It took them.
I like his under points, so he got there.
Yeah,
it was actually funny because Terrell and I were talking about finding a middle of parlaying his over threes with under points, and then I actually almost got there, and that was 5-1. But I think his points are 20 or 21.5, and he ended up with 15.
Yeah, so I mean, and it took them 3 games. So whenever OG went out to realize, hey, Siakam is our best mismatch. They have nobody that can guard him. Just give him the ball in the mid-post area. I don't know why it took him that long to do that. I thought they did a great job on Brunson, not just switching, but kind of blitzing and getting the ball out of his hands rather than the lazy, okay, I can see the screen. I mean, I can see the double coming from 2 miles away. So they fixed that. I mean, nothing really surprised me. I mean, desperate team won. I give them credit defensively, especially, but nothing really surprised me. I mean, I'm more concerned with the status of Josh Hart than anything.
Yeah, the Josh Hart injury is definitely a big deal. He only played 31 minutes. He had 5 points, 8 rebounds, but we saw that he was like a towel on his head. I don't want to say it looked like he was going to cry, but he was definitely in a lot of pain on the bench when he had a towel over his head, kind of just dealing with it. So we know how impactful he is. I'm not sure how bad the abdomen injury is. I don't think it's a tear or anything, but it could be in theory. Nobody knows. He's probably going to play in Game 7, but the point is we don't know how many minutes or how effective he's going to be. And that's just adding to the long list of injuries they already have, which is definitely not what the Knicks could afford. Now, I was wrong about that game. A summary of my betting week so far was the Knicks team total over 105.5 is my lock, and they finished with 103. and they scored 5 points in the final 6 minutes of a half. So that's how that went. I barely lost the team total, and that happened. They were flying over, and then it ended up falling apart. But the Knicks, I thought the real shock of the game for me was the rebounding, because the Pacers out-rebounded the Knicks by 12. That I did not see coming at all. I thought that even if the Knicks were going to lose, they would still have the edge on the boards, and they just did not. Now, some of that had to do with actual offense, because the Pacers shot about 54% from the floor, and the Knicks shot about 44% from the floor. So simply put, if you're going to make more shots, then you're in a good line to win the rebounding battle because you're giving up less defensive rebounds by comparison. So I understand that's a piece of it. But the Pacers did have one more offensive rebound than the Knicks. So they just did a great job on the boards. They got embarrassed by Hartenstein in Game 5. They responded well in Game 6, and we'll see if that carries over into Game 7. Because if the Pacers win the rebounding battle in Game 7, they're going to win. I think we'd agree on that.
Yeah, I think the team who won the rebounding battle in every game has won the game. I think ESPN put that graphic up. Yeah.
But even with Indiana, you can make the argument with the depth they have that the main way the Knicks are going to win is just by creating second chance points and by out hustling. Because also when you actually are able to get second chance points and able to kind of draw a lot of fouls, just loose ball fouls trying to go for it, you end up in the bonus. And those free throws matter. And even the Knicks in the game yesterday were in the bonus pretty early on. They just weren't able to capitalize on that enough. Missed a bunch of free throws early in that game. But the point is, I do think Indiana showcased some physicality, which was good to see. And we'll see if that does carry over into Game 7. But as for Game 6, the rebounding battle surprised me. That was basically it. Siakam was great. As you mentioned before, it took too long for the Pacers to realize how important Siakam was. But better late than never, I guess, because they're still playing. So we'll see if that works out in Game 7. Besides that, nothing really else to talk about. DiVincenzo started off poorly early, then he kind of caught fire, and then did basically nothing in the second half. McBride was really good early on, which is a good sign. Hartenstein points under, continues to cash because he never looks to actually shoot the ball. And he was kind of I don't want to say a non-factor because he had 6 assists. So keep an eye out for Hartenstein assists moving forward, especially if Josh Hart is going to be injured. But he was kind of a non-factor for most of that game. The entire Knicks starting 5, by the way, was a -11 or worse. So the Pacers starting lineup dominated the game. McConnell had 15 off the bench and 4 assists, I believe. He was a +2. Yeah, nothing else to add, though. But you have anything else you want to talk about for Game 6? Should we move on to Game 7?
No, we can go ahead and cover it in Game 7.
Okay. So for Game 7, looking at the actual lines here, you have the Knicks being -2.5 and the Pacers +2.5. And the over-under is set at 208.5. Now, of course, we don't know who the officials are going to be. Could be Scott Foster. Forgot to mention Tony Brothers is doing the Thunder game on Saturday, so keep an eye out for that, as he's an underrated series extender. But for this series, for Game 7, maybe you get Scott Foster, maybe you don't. Who knows? It is lining up, though, for Foster to get Game 7. But I am going to ask you, since the line is short, the home team's won every game, but a large reason why the line is so short is the actual lack of health for the supporting cast or just for the overall roster for the Knicks. Brunson's been banged up, but I think he's fine for the most part. Yeah. We do know, of course, Mitchell Robinson's out. We know Anunoby's going to be out for a while, and now Josh Hart's going to probably play, but he looked really, really, I'd say, compromised during various portions of that game. Is that enough to sway you to finally taking a road team to win a game?
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to take the Pacers to win it, man. The last time that the Knicks played in the Eastern Conference Finals was against the Pacers, and they lost.
No,
it was Ewing. He missed in the Eastern Conference Finals in.
It was Conference Finals. Sorry, yeah, okay.
Yeah, not the semis, but yeah. So
that was yeah, you're right. That was the second round when Hibbert blocked Melo and they won in like 6.
Yeah, it's just ironic. The team that's preventing them from getting to the Eastern Conference Finals is the team they lost to in their last Eastern Conference Finals, which was hilarious. But yeah, I mean, I think the Pacers are going to be good here. They have played better on the road than the Knicks have. I think they had opportunities in certain games to kind of flip the switch. If you remember, in
Game 1 and Game 2, they arguably should have won. The referees kind of hosed them at the end of
I agree. And that's fair too. But in Game 5, they had a chance to kind of Miles Turner came out, hit those back-to-back threes. I think they cut it to 9.
I thought it was 3. I thought he had 3 straight threes.
Okay, yeah. So it cut it from it. Did it cut it from 15 to 6? or
it could have been something like that. But I know
yeah. Well,
Turner is
I know.
injury.
Well, let's just put it like this: it cut it from double digits to single digits.
Yeah. It
And
looked
then
like they were going to go on a second half run, and then everything fell apart after that.
And they just folded. So, and a lot had to do with Tyrese being non-aggressive, kind of them not giving the ball to Siakam and playing through him. I think that's what they need to do in this specific game. But they got to match that physicality, and I think a way to match that physicality is putting Isaiah Jackson in the game a little bit more. I mean, he's been really good in the minutes that he's been playing. I think he had 3 block shots in like 11 minutes. His energy and effort is probably the best of any big. I mean, we know Miles Turner kind of wants to live on the paint. So I think playing Jackson a little bit more, him and McConnell, energy-wise, just gives them a bigger lift. If you look at in the game 6 last game, Pacers were a plus 24 in the paint. That was the Knicks' worst differential of the season. And controlling that paint on the defensive end. I mean, the Knicks were 18 for 41 shooting in the paint, which was their 4th lowest mark of the season. So I think they have to bring that physicality. They're gonna press. I think the way they played Brunson was really good, as far as like making him make decisions early and not letting him see what's coming and then react. So I think they did a good job of that. The Pacers bench obviously is the bigger story. They've been playing well. Toppin's been playing well. Of course, we mentioned McConnell, but I think they gotta get Jackson some more minutes, man, to match that physicality. And if Josh Hart is not playing, then Siakam should be the feature. I know everybody is like fascinated with how
he should be the feature anyway, to be honest.
Yeah, like he should be featured because think about it. If Josh Hart plays and he's hobbled, do you really want him guarding Siakam? Not really. And they put Precious on him, which is a mismatch anyway. You could just bring him out of the paint and go by him. So I think Siakam is going to be in for a really, really good game. So I think the Pacers come out, Scott. I think they control the tempo, which is we know what they were playing at a rapid pace in Game 6.
They were full court pressing.
Yeah, all series.
They were really picking them up 90 feet.
Yeah. And I don't think it's more so of them trying to like get turnovers rather than just making Jalen like work to get up the court.
Yeah, and trying to tire him out.
Yeah, and they're getting into their offense with like 15, 16 seconds left on the shot clock, which is not something that the Knicks do well as far as executing outside of Jalen high pick and rolls. But yeah, man, I think the Pacers get it done here and go to the Eastern Conference Finals. I know we don't know much about Josh Hart right now, but we all know he's not going to be 100%. He might not even be 80. And the way he actually called to come out of that game twice. He called in the first quarter, I think, came out, went back in the third quarter after halftime, and then he was done for. So,
and that's a tough injury anyway, because with an abdomen, there's no way to like position your body so that way you don't put any stress on your stomach. Like no matter what you do, you're automatically going to be aggravating the injury. So
yeah, and you're going to be
in
a really
tough spot in the body to actually get an injury at a time like this.
Yeah, and you're going to be in the paint like banging, around with Siakam, and I guess they can try to hide him on somebody else, but I don't think anybody is in that lineup that's not capable of like hitting a shot or getting to the lane and making him work. So yeah, I think the Pacers get it done here, Scott.
Yeah, it's not even about hiding him. It's also just about his usual activity. We know that Josh Hart's
that's a good point.
Strength is being able to out-hustle, and just the amount of second-chance opportunities and the amount of hustle plays will generate for your own team. The amount of winning plays will generate for your own team in a game-in, game-out basis. And if his movement's compromised, then that's going to be a serious problem because he generates a lot of winning plays for the Knicks. And I do wonder if his injury is going to play a factor in potentially an upset victory for the Pacers in Game 7. But I feel like the one area that does concern me, though, for the Pacers is just how quickly they've been willing to fold on the road in the series when things don't go well for them. Brunson might end up going for 40. We'll see what happens. I think you're looking at Brunson waking up again in the second half, so maybe he's in line for a big game. The issue that I do run into for Indiana is still the same. I don't think Halliburton's aggressive enough. And if you're expecting Siakam to score 20 points and change, but Halliburton's going to give you like 15, and he's only going to end up taking like 12 shots, it's a problem. And I feel like no matter what happens, Halliburton's either shooting three-pointers or doing nothing. So that's kind of the problem I have with the Pacers, is that I do think they're still a bit too much, I'd say they're too finesse-based on a regular basis, but they might be able to get by. The issue I've had personally in the postseason is I keep picking the road teams and it keeps failing on me. So I might just end up leading to the Knicks. But I'll put it this way. If the Pacers pulled off the upset and won Game 7 on the road, I would not be shocked. I am going to ask you, if you're the Celtics, who'd you rather play? Probably the Knicks, right? Because half the team's injured?
Yeah, I'd rather play the Knicks.
I would probably agree with you. I think they'd win the series either way, but I think the Knicks, being this compromised, probably losing like 5 to the Celtics.
Yeah, so. They don't have enough wing depth. They can't, if they can't guard Siakam, and that's just one wing who's, I would say, less talented than what the wings are in Boston, then I have no idea what they're going to do with Tatum, Brown, and then if get Porzingis back, like I have no idea what the Knicks are going to do. I mean, and it kind of takes away Hartenstein because he lives in the paint and physicality. Well, he's going to have to guard. They're going to play 5 out and make him guard, so he's going to be away from the rim. So yeah, it'll be tough for the Knicks to compete with Boston. So I think Boston would much rather the Knicks win that series.
Yeah, I also want to bring it up because they already announced Porzingis will be missing the first couple games of that series. So I wanted to always mention that in passing. But do you want to ask you about some player props for this Game 7? I know Terrell and I liked Obi Toppin. He got there. I've been preaching Isaiah Jackson blocks in every game of the series, and he's cashed in basically every game of the series. Guy's a phenomenal rim protector. And the energy that he has, as you said, very high motor, which I do appreciate for a center. Yes, I do want to ask you, though, are there any player props that you do like besides potentially Obi Toppin or Isaiah Jackson?
I like Siakam, man. I like him to keep getting it done, especially offensively. I mean, he scored 17 of his 25 points in the paint or at the free throw line.
His points are 21.5.
Yeah, I would ladder that up to 25 plus if you can get that at a plus price. I think he has a good game, and I think that the way Tyrese is playing, I think he's comfortable with kind of deferring a little bit more to Siakam. I mean, he has the advantage. He's actually doing really well in crashing the glass in that mid-post area. They're taking Hartenstein away with Miles Turner. So I think Miles Turner is in for a good game as well. But I like Siakam the best over, you said 21.5?
21.5. If you want 24.5, you can get that at plus 175.
Yeah, I like that. I like that as well. I laddered it up all the way up to 25. And I think you mentioned it as well in your handicap with Brunson. I know the number's big. What is it, like 33.5?
I know it's 34.5 last game. Let me just quickly check what it is. I mean, I think he's going to have to go over anyway, just based on volume.
Yeah,
but let me just quickly see what his number is. 35.5.
Jesus Christ. I mean, like, yeah. I mean, damn. But he's gonna have to be aggressive, and he's gonna go down swinging. I don't want to like give that out, but
he's at least 43 in 2 of the 3 home games in the series. The one exception was when he missed a quarter, and he's still at 29.
What is him to get 40? Like plus 120?
It's gonna be higher than that, but it's gonna be low. It's gonna be around plus 230.
Yeah, so I would rather bet that than take the over 35.5 because I mean you get more bang for your buck. But I think if Brunson's going to have to – I think he's going to play well. He's shown that he's been able to kind of handle whatever they throw at him. And if Josh Hart's not there, that kind of puts more onus onto him to kind of do things offensively. So I'll go with that 40 plus versus that at 2 – you said plus 230?
Yeah, 230.
Yeah, I would go with that versus playing him over 35.5.
I might have to honestly consider a Josh Hart fade here. And I love the guy. He's my favorite role player in the entire league. His PRA is 28.5.
Oh, yeah.
Are we sure he can physically be out there for 40-plus minutes? Like, I don't know if his body's going to hold up. Now, it is Game 7, so maybe he'll tough it out. But at the same point, if you're going to be that compromised physically, I don't know how active you can actually be.
Yeah,
so I might consider – it looked rough, that abdomen injury. He called out of the game twice. He never calls to go out of the game. If you're thinking he's going to play 48 minutes and the lines might be reflecting that, but he actually plays like 40, and he gets a decent amount of rest compared to his usual number, you have less minutes for him to go over with. So I don't mind maybe a Josh Hart under if you do think that the abdomen's going to be an issue, and you do think that Tibbs might even, as much as it pains him, bench him for a couple of minutes because he just needs the actual couple of minutes to potentially, heal or at least get some breaths in.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that works. Yeah.
I don't know either, but the point is Josh Hart might be worth an under because you know for a fact he's going to be injured. McBride was very good in the last game. If Hart is banged up and he potentially will be missing some minutes, then McBride probably benefits from that because he was fearless in Game 6. He looked solid. Unfortunately, it didn't matter in the end, but that could be worth a look as well. You mentioned Siakam. I'm not against that. I think if I was going to go with an under, though, I know it's a Game 7 and maybe he steps up. Halliburton points, though, at 18.5. I have to consider the under once again. It's just a spot where Halliburton is not aggressive enough, and it really pisses me off. And we talk about it all the time. We saw Halliburton have a couple of monster games in MSG earlier in the series. But I want to at least read off Halliburton's point totals in this series, so you know what I'm talking about. So Halliburton's points to dive into the series. So he had 15 in the last game, 13 in the game prior in MSG, 20 points the game prior than that in Indiana. He had 35 points in Indiana in Game 3. He had 34 points in Game 2 in New York, and he had 6 points in Game 1. So he just chooses to either go for like 30 or he chooses to go for like 15. So I just have a hard time trusting him when he doesn't go to the free throw line and all he does is shoot three-pointers. He doesn't really attack the rim. When he does, he's always looking to pass first. It's pretty annoying. So I do think that you're looking at a spot where maybe Halliburton under is worth consideration. I see somebody mentioning the Josh Hart double-double under. Maybe. I don't mind that, actually, because his points were at 12.5. So there is a world where Hart maybe gets the rebounds anyway, but the shot's going to be off. I don't mind that. But the point is, I do think 28.5 points, rebounds, and assists is pretty high. So I don't mind the under with Josh Hart in that one. Do you have any thoughts on potentially a Halliburton no double-double? I just want to quickly see what the price is. Halliburton double-double in this game is actually plus 165. If you want to be tempted by that, I don't think I am, because I believe he's had 0 double-doubles in the entire series.
Yeah, I don't know what I really don't know how to handicap Tyrese. I mean, this is a big game, and usually like when their back has been against the wall, I mean, he hasn't been the one that I've came away with saying, oh yeah, like he was the reason like they won the game.
He did in that one Milwaukee game that went to like double overtime. But even with that being the case, that was pretty fortunate that he shot the ball poorly. He just had a triple-double in the end. But
yeah, he had some big games in this series. You read off the stats, but I think those were more so to do with him just like shooting the ball more. Like I don't know what we're gonna get. Are we gonna get the aggressive Tyrese, or are we gonna get the one who's kind of laid back? And he hasn't been. I mean, he's been facilitating the ball, but like he hasn't had double-digit assists in the series, has he?
No, he's had 0 double-doubles in the entire series.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not sure how to feel about him. I would look at his threes more than anything. I would look at his threes more than his points or assists.
I'm trying to think of anybody else. Do you want McConnell in this game?
I'll probably look at his points and assists.
It's at 10.5 points, 4.5 assists.
Yeah, so yeah, I would look at that. Maybe like Jackson. Do they have Jackson?
No. Jackson, I would have taken the block already, but I don't see anything on Jackson.
Yeah, but yeah, McConnell's going to come in. He's going to give you everything he has, and he's going to live in the paint. Like live in the paint. He does a really good job of not. They're giving him the three, but he kind of uses it as a head of steam and gets into his like 13 to 15 foot jumper, and that's always really good. So I expect him. He gets to the lane pretty easily as well. So I expect him to have a good game as well. Yeah, and I think we see an uptick in his minutes as well. I wouldn't be surprised to kind of see him come in a little bit earlier than what we're used to seeing him coming in, and maybe look to play him with Tyrese a little bit more, kind of like what they did in games 2 and 3.
Yeah, one other prop I want to mention, which I mentioned in the last game that cashed again, Hartenstein under for points. It's at 8.5. He hasn't been close. He's had less than 8 points in 4 straight games. He's been pretty much a non-factor offensively. Every time he grabs an offensive rebound, the first thing he does is put his back to the basket. He's trying to pass the ball out to somebody by the perimeter. You can go up with it. You're allowed to actually go for a putback. You're allowed to do that, but Hartenstein doesn't believe so. So the point is Hartenstein under for points. I think it's intriguing at 8.5. That number is just too high when he's had less than 8 in 4 straight games. I find that line too big. It's at minus 119. I'm assuming you co-sign that.
Yeah, absolutely. I like his rebounds and assists over the.
Yeah, that's fine. The assists I might be tempted by in general for the over, but the rebounds can be solid. The point is he's never looking to actually shoot, and I think that the odds makers haven't fully adjusted to that. So that's kind of what I noticed. But anything else you want to add, or should we move on to the final game 7?
Nah, man, we can move on.
Cool. So moving on to the last game 7, you have the Nuggets laying 4.5. Was 5.5. Now it's 4.5. And the over-under was, I think, 198 initially, and now it's down to 197.5. We just saw Minnesota win by 45 in the last game. The home teams have been playing well recently after they ended up the road team won the first 4 games of the series. But the home team has won each of the last 2 games comfortably. We know Denver's been here before. Minnesota really hasn't. Are you picking nerves to play a factor, or do you think Ant's built different and he's going to help lead this team to an upset victory in Game 7?
Well, Ant is the last person I'm worried about. I'm not worried about him not
That's why I said
up.
carrying. That's why I was asking.
I'm not worried about him showing up. I'm more so worried about Like, will they be? Cat, Gobert. I'm not even worried about Conley. I think Conley is a big game player. I mean, he doesn't. He's not asked to do a ton, but he does take a lot of pressure off.
Veteran leadership, though.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was in full effect in game 6. But yeah, like Town, I think it's more. I think we can predict more of a Towns kind of collapse rather than anybody else in the series on either side. I think that is the biggest X factor. And although he wasn't effective like scoring, I think he only had 10 points in game 6, 13 rebounds though. Really good defense on Joker. And he wasn't in foul trouble. And I think that's the big thing with Minnesota is using him as the primary defender and having Gobert kind of roam around to make him to make Joker like score over both of those 7-footers. So if he can stay in the game and kind of make Joker work a little bit to make a high volume of take a high volume of shots, and he can get 30, 35, but if he has to work for it, then I think you got to live with that. But I think the scarier part is that Denver was up 3-2, and Michael Porter Jr. was a non-factor. Jamal Murray hasn't been good, and I know he has the elbow issue. Have you heard anything about the elbow? Like, is he? I mean, obviously he's going to play, but like,
no, honestly, there's no point even guessing how Murray's going to look because he's either really good or really bad and no in between. The elbow's been bothering him. He's had injuries before. I think it was his leg earlier in the season.
It was his calf.
You never really know with Murray. I'm assuming he's not going to be that bad again, but I'm not going to sit here and try to guess like how he's going to look. We'll see what happens. You can probably tell in the first 2 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm struggling with this game, Scott. To be honest with you, I really am. I know the money's coming in on Minnesota, and I kind of agree with that. But again, I can kind of see a scenario where Denver kind of like grinds them out, and late in the game, with the high 1-5 pick and roll with Murray and Joker kind of puts them to sleep. But again, if the physicality, I think the referee is going to dictate how this game goes. If they let Minnesota be as physical as they were in games 1 and 2, then I think it'll be a better game. Now, obviously, Denver did a good job of adjusting, winning those 3 straight. And if they're letting them play, I think that obviously favors Minnesota. But I trust Denver at home more than I do the supporting cast of Minnesota on the road. And I know they've shown the ability to win those 2 games on the road. But, I mean, just McDaniels, Towns, Gobert, and even I guess like Nall is to a certain extent. I don't trust those guys more than I trust the ancillary pieces of Denver. So I'm going to lean to Denver. I probably won't be playing. This will be a heavy like player prop bit for me, but I got a better play when we get to the total. But I'm leaning to the Nuggets. I don't trust the supporting cast of Minnesota to kind of make enough shots. I trust them defensively. And also, to me, when I'm handicapping a game, I'm looking at what are the factors or what is the easiest paths of victory for each team. And I think Denver they have more efficient ways to get to the victory than Minnesota, because Minnesota is predicated on physicality and Ant being great. Ant can be great, and their physicality won't be, as on the line. But
we saw that in game 5.
Right. And so, but if they're letting them play and letting those guys kind of battle and bump Murray, and if he's not 100%, then that favors them. But if they don't, then how does Minnesota answer? You know what I'm saying? So I'm leaning to Denver. I like their path to victory more. I won't be playing it though. I'll be playing the total.
And for the total, I'm guessing you like the over in this game?
No, I like the under.
Love the under. You're like, love really? 197.5. Okay.
Love the under. I mean, we saw historically game 7s have went under.
I know, but this number's insanely low.
Yeah, it is. But they've had a tough time cracking 100 in the first half. I like the first half under even more.
I was giving that out earlier in the series.
Yeah. So and it's cash with every game but one. And I think they both shot out of their
in 5 of the 6.
Yeah, and they shot out of their mind in that game. That was the Jamal Murray half court shot, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Where they had that fury. But yeah, I like the under here. I think both teams are going to come out slow, methodical. If it is physical, then they're not going to go to the free throw line as much. And I think each team is going to make the other execute in the half court. I think we see a low scoring game. I wouldn't be surprised if we see like a low 40s or high 40s, low to mid 40s halftime score, and we get like 89, 90 type of game.
Yeah, that wouldn't shock me either. But it's what we've seen so far in this series.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think for this game, I've been getting burned recently by basically overreacting to the previous game, and that's kind of killed me for the last couple of days. We just saw a team lose by 45 points, and they're favored by 4.5. I'm going to lean to Denver. Like, I feel like I've been trying to make cases of, well, momentum was a factor here, and it just has not been a factor in the last couple series. It has not mattered, and I feel like this is pretty telling to me. I know some of it's reputation-based, and I understand that the money has come in on Minnesota to drop the actual spread. They lost by 45. They scored 70 points. I haven't seen a team score less than 80 all year, and they scored 70 points in a playoff game, and they're favored by 4.5. I think I got to lean to Denver, just based on where the numbers are located. It seems like a trap line, and I fell for the trap the last 2 days. So I'm going to try to learn from what's happened. If Minnesota ends up covering, I'll be annoyed, but it is what it is. I'll go with Denver on minus the 4.5 because they've been there before. The total's interesting. I like the first half under. I probably wouldn't mind a live over if you end up getting that first half under, because I think at some point the game's going to pick up to some degree. But I do think you're looking at Denver laying a lot more points than you might have expected after what happened in the last game. So I think the issue I have with Minnesota is, as you said before, kind of just expecting the other guys to show up. McDaniels went crazy in Game 6, but nobody on Denver showed up. And I feel like that's why I kind of have to, I don't want to say ignore what happened in Game 6, but I have to at least push it aside to some degree because nobody on Denver could have shot the entire game. I thought Denver actually got decent looks for a decent portion of that game. It just felt like early on nobody could have shot. Now, Porter Jr., I've been down on in years past. I thought he was very good in the Lakers series, but they've done a great job of guarding him, and his decision-making is still atrocious. Some turnovers, he'll make some really ugly passes, and he kind of takes himself out of the game. So Porter Jr. I don't exactly trust. Murray's the big question mark because if he plays well, Denver's going to win. If Murray plays well, they're winning this game. So I guess that means I'm kind of expecting Murray to bounce back, but we'll see what happens there. Maybe Gordon plays well. He's randomly had a good series offensively, but Denver's bench is really, really bad. So I guess the question is, in a Game 7, is there a world where Joker plays 45 minutes?
Yeah, I think you have to lean on those guys more. I mean, they got you to this point. We saw the regression hit for Holiday and Reggie Jackson, even Christian Brown to a certain degree.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you got to lean more so on the five that got you here. I don't know if you'll be able to play those guys in spurts because the key thing in Denver the past 2 years has been the non-Jokic minutes, and they've been fine in that 3-game winning streak that they had after going down.
They were not good in Game 6.
Yeah, at all. So I don't think you can take him off the court. I mean, he kind of makes the job easier for everybody else. So I don't think we see anything less than 45, 46 minutes from any of the starting five.
I think they have to. I think that might be a lot, especially for Murray with an injury. So I don't think he's going to play 45, 46.
Man, I think you got
the issue you run into with Joker is the fact that in their title run last year, they had 0 Game 7s. So they were never really on the brink of elimination at any point. So I don't know how to factor in the boost in minutes for Joker. He should play 45-plus minutes, assuming that he can actually handle it physically, because the bench units are atrocious when he's not on the floor most of the time. So with Joker probably playing a minimum of 43 minutes in this matchup, I like the points for Joker. It's at 29.5. I think he's going to have to force it. I think worst case scenario, if his teammates are missing shots, he's going to have to pivot, and he's going to have to try to be aggressive. We know Gobert, even though they played great defense in Game 6, we know Joker historically has gotten the better of Gobert in the head-to-head. They're going to try to let him roam. They're going to try to let Cat guard him. We know his foul trouble can be a concern there. Joker at 29.5, though, if you're picking a 3-time MVP to show up for a Game 7 and you're picking a legacy-type game, I think the points are more likely than the assists. Because Minnesota all season long, and even the last couple of years, has been very good at preventing Joker assists. I'd rather back Joker. I trust him. I don't really trust the other guys. Give me Joker over 29.5 points. You?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. JR in the chat was bringing up KCP. I kind of like KCP threes. I think he'll be able to hit a couple. He's been in big games. I mean, obviously they all have, but I trust KCP's defense and his threes to kind of get going. So outside of that, I'm kind of afraid to take Murray because I don't know how his elbow is going to be, and that's his shooting elbow. How I feel.
Yeah,
that's his shooting elbow. So and Ant, they did a good job of switching. So Ant was his primary defender, and Ant was like hounding him. And Jamal was asked about it, and he kind of gave him the like who. Like whenever they asked him, did Anthony Edwards defense guard him? So I think they got like a little budding rivalry going on there. But I think Ant's going to have a great game, man. I think if you ladder him up to 35, 40, I think he's going to have a great game. I don't trust Gobert. I'm going under on his points. I think it's at 11.5. Is that what you see?
Yeah, give or take. It's either 10.5 or 11.5.
Yeah, either way, I like him under. And I think if you like the Wolves, which I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they won the game. But if you like the Wolves, I think you have to like Karl Anthony Towns to have a good game. So you might want to lean to his points, maybe his threes over as well. But outside of that, Scott, I'm probably going to be on that KCP threes prop. I'll be on Gobert under, and I'll be on Anthony Edwards really, really heavy, along with your Joker play that you just broke down as well.
Yeah, and for the record, is at 27.5. Yep. If you want to go for points on him. I do want to test something out, though, so I want to kind of experiment quickly with a same-game parlay. I am wondering what would happen if you parlay Joker and points over with the full game under. I'm just curious how that would actually unfold, because that isn't a reverse correlation. So let me just quickly see what I can get here. FanDuel's got 28.5. It's for an experiment. Let me just at least figure this out anyway. So once again, shop around. You can find 27.5 on Ant. But if you would take... it's plus 812 on a 3-pick, which is fine for a default number, I guess. But just throwing it out there, that's kind of an interesting way to go about it. If you want to just fade every supporting cast member, basically. One supporting cast guy I do want to fade that I have to at least mention is Justin Holiday. His points are at 3.5. FanDuel went rogue on his number. ESPN has minus 170. BetMGM has minus 165. FanDuel's just hanging 132. On the under 3.5, so you're saving like 40 cents, 30-something cents just by shopping around. Holiday in the last 2 games is a total of 0 points. And he went 0 for 5 in the last game. He went 0 for 1 the game prior. If we think that all the starting 5 members have to play more minutes, that means Holiday's probably going to play like 10. So if you want to go for my random fade bench player, I think it's Justin Holiday. Even with 3.5, you can afford 1 3-pointer. All he does is shoot threes anyway. But the point is he has 0 points in back-to-back games. So I think that's worth consideration. I don't know if you want to gamble on that. The issue with Reggie Jackson is his line's at 2.5. So if he lucks into a 3-pointer, he goes over in one shot.
Yeah, I think
Holiday needs 2 shots. So I think Holiday under is a better play than Jackson, in my opinion. You?
Yeah. I mean, I agree with both. I think Reggie Jackson is, if he does, like if Jamal Murray's not right, and we'll be able to tell that early on, like you mentioned, I think that basically Reggie Jackson
have to play at some point.
Yeah, Reggie Jackson is the most dependable guard with big game experience to kind of come in, and I think that's a guard that Michael Malone will trust rather than Justin Holiday, which kind of coincides with your under.
Because he sucks, but you're not wrong.
Yeah, I agree.
He's a terrible basketball player, but you're 100% right. He's been around the block a few times. We'll see what happens, but I think he was on the Clippers team that blew the 3-1 lead, right?
Was he? I think so.
So he's been in game 7s before, not for a good reason, but he's still been there. Trying to think of anybody else you might be tempted by. If you want to fade anybody else, I know the Christian Brown number at 5.5 for points. I might not mind maybe Brown under for PRA, because I also don't know. Is he going to be with the closing unit? I don't know. It depends how bad Porter Jr. is going to be. Because there is a chance that does Porter Jr. get benched maybe with the final unit? He might.
Yeah, he was. Christian Brown was closing out games the past 2 competitive games, I think. So
yeah, that's why I was asking. Like,
yeah, won't be surprised.
Do we want to fade Porter Jr. here?
I don't. I actually think he's going to have a good game.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a good game. Yeah.
I don't think
those bench guys.
They might just be grabbing him around screens. That's kind of why I thought that you might be willing to take an under if you're expecting a physical game.
Yeah, my thing with the starters is I don't think that those bench guys are going to play a lot. I think Michael Malone's going to ride those starters and not play a ton of minutes, or not allow a ton of minutes, or allocate a ton of minutes to those bench guys. So I would look at a lot of the bench guys under, and then some of the top guys over. But it kind of, we don't know that. I mean, I know we keep harping on it, but Jamal Murray's elbow, like I don't know how effective he'll be.
Nobody knows.
Yeah, so that's where I'm kind of at a standstill. So if I'm believing that he's like 75%, I think more shots for Michael Porter Jr. Ant is obviously one of the better perimeter defenders on Jamal. So I'll be interested to see how that works. But yeah, I think Michael Porter is going to have a good game. I really do.
All right. Is that anything else you want to add, or should we officially just move on to
the
Walking Dog picks?
That's good.
All right. So that's going to wrap it up for the 2 Game 7s on Sunday. Before getting to the actual lock and dog picks, though, do want to remind you once again that we are brought to you by Rhythm. If you're betting on NBA player props, then you need to download Rhythm, because Rhythm gives you a menu of the best player props for every single NBA playoff game, including the 3 games we covered in this episode, making it easy to go through and find the best props to put your money on in seconds. Rhythm's predictions are backed by over 3 years of data and a team of data scientists and quants that focus on fine-tuning the algorithm to give you the best chance at winning. Rhythm pairs its predictions with player prop graphs to help you feel even more confident in your picks, which can help you make whichever bets you want in either sportsbooks or even on DFS if you want to go through that route. From superstars to bench players, Rhythm finds the best player prop lines, all backed by AI data, without you needing to endlessly scroll through a sports book. So if you need extra proof and graphs, tell you that Reggie Jackson sucks, you have graphs now, courtesy of Rhythm. Either way, though, you also can create your own custom NBA models, so you can get AI-backed money line, spread, and total picks for every playoff game. Start a free 7-day trial and start winning your NBA player props with Rhythm, available wherever you do get your apps. We're also brought to you by Game Time. I know about all of you, I personally love attending sporting events. It used to be very difficult to actually find a ticketing platform that I could trust, but that changed once I found Game Time. Game Time has pretty much every single event you could think of, not just for sports. They have concerts, they have comedy, they have really anything you could possibly want, including Game 7. If you want to go to one of these games, if you're in New York, maybe myself, if I wanted to go to a Game 7, I probably don't want to go to this one, but if you did, you could use Game Time. It's also good for baseball, because Game Time is now the official authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even easier, and the price on Game Time actually go down the closer to first pitch. So you can get good deals at the last minute, which is definitely what Game Time is known for. They also have a lot of great features with the app. They have images of seat views, for example, so you can see the exact view you would be getting if you would buy a ticket. I'm sure you've been there before, where you've had to buy a ticket and you ended up sitting down. You thought you were going to get a good experience, and then you ended up seeing a pole or something in your way. So you ended up having basically paid for the inability to actually watch what you paid for, which is really annoying. That's happened to me before. And now that's not an issue, because Game Time will give you an image of a seat view, so you know exactly what you're going to be getting before you actually spend your hard-earned money. But a reminder that if you use the promo code CFBX after downloading the Game Time app and creating an account, you'll save $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CFBX for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back, everyone, to the NBA Gambling Podcast. Just finished previewing the Saturday and Sunday games. Now it's time to get into the lock and dog picks for the show. Lonte, I'm going to let you go first. What is your lock and dog for the show?
Yeah, so I mean, for the lock, I'm gonna go with a game that we talked about with Dallas. I think it's 3.5. I saw some 4s popping up, so they're taking some money, but it's still a couple 3.5s out there if you want to find them. It's readily available to find the 3.5. I think that we see a complete game from the 2 stars who haven't been playing well. I know those ancillary pieces have been playing out of their minds. I think Derrick Jones Jr. has 36 points in his last 2 games. PJ Washington kind of cooled off, but he still was getting open looks. I think Dallas comes out, exerts their will. OKC will make it I think it'll be a really, really high competitive game, but I think it'll grind it out. Dallas will get the win. So I like Dallas to win behind a great performance from Luka and Kyrie, something we haven't seen this year. I think they're averaging like 42 points combined in the series, somewhere around there. But yeah. I think we see them both kind of get to 30. So I like Dallas to win the game. Minus 3.5, minus 4. I like it up to like 4.5. So Dallas is my lock. Dog, I'm going with the Pacers. I'm going with the Pacers to get it done. I think maybe the injuries have kind of caught up to what New York has done. I know Brunson's going to be great. The building's going to be electric. If they can handle that initial wave that is ultimately going to come by the Knicks with that home crowd, I like them to kind of sustain that. Indiana's actually been doing good in those first, like in New York, outside of, I think, game 5. I think they've been doing really well offensively in the first quarter. So if they can keep that up, take the initial jab, I think they'll be able to hold up. So I like the Pacers to get it done. Plus 115.
Yeah, it looks about right. I don't know if you want to put in a player prop with that. You want to parlay with Siakam or something.
Yeah, well, I'll take another. I got another like additional dog. I like Siakam 25 plus points plus 230. Like I said, I think he's been dominant. Josh Hart's injury is not
25 plus was 170.
170. I'm sorry, yeah,
175.
Yeah, well, I like that plus 175. Like I said, I think he is. I think the offense should be ran through him at that mid post area. Josh Hart being compromised, not going to be able to slow him down. Even if he is there at full strength, he was still getting what he wanted. So if you put a bigger defender on him, he's just going to go by him. So I like his activity around the offensive glass. I like Siakam 25 plus 175 and the Pacers plus 115 to win it outright.
All right, so I think what I'm going to do, since you just gave out a bonus dog, I'll probably end up doing a bonus dog as well. So for my lock, I think I am going to go to the game between the Mavericks and the Thunder. I'm going to go with the player prop, though. I think I'm going to go with a bunch of player props because my side reads have been terrible this week. But I am going to go with Shea. I'll take his over 13.5 rebounds and assists at around minus 101. I just like the price too much. Even though I think Dallas wins the game, I do think you're looking at a spot where Shea has been very solid on the boards so far in the series. He's been pretty good with assists, and nobody can hit a shot. So if he's been going over this number on a pretty regular basis in the series, and nobody can shoot, a couple more go down, and you're kind of cruising to an over for this number. So I think 13.5 is too low. If you want to go through the numbers in this actual series, he has gone over this number in 4 of the 5 games, and we keep talking about it, the Thunder, if nobody can shoot in this entire series. Jalen Williams has been terrible. Giddey can't play. Isaiah Joe's actually been kind of hit or miss, mostly miss. Dort can't shoot. Point is, though, even with all those issues, Shea has gone to at least 14 in 4 of the 5 games, and the one time he lost in this series, he had exactly 13. So the rebounds have been good. The assists have been kind of up there. He's had chances. His potential assists are crazy. He's had at least 13 potential assists in each of the last 7 games, including the last 3 games of the New Orleans series. So I think you're looking at a spot where Shea's it wasn't minus 101, it was minus 135. But I think that this number is too low based on how much usage Shea gets. And since nobody else has really done anything, the ball's going to be in his hands all the time. Yep. So I do like that potential. Give me Shea over 13.5 rebounds and assists at minus 135 as my lock. For my dog, I am actually going to go with an alt player prop, and it's a player that we talked about, but I am going to go with his points. I'm going to take Josh Hart. Give me the under 10.5 points at plus 150. I think plus 150 is a hell of a deal. If you want to talk about his injury, then we know it's going to impact his shooting, because anytime you're going to be trying to rise up for a jump shot, that's going to put a lot of actual strain on your stomach. But you're looking at his overall points in the series, and efficiency-wise, he's been horrible. To go through his actual points in the last couple of games, Indiana's also defended him well, but Hart's had less than 11 points in 3 of the last 4 games. And to go through his actual shooting numbers in the last few games, he went 2 of 8 in Game 6, 7 of 16 in Game 5, so that was the one game he randomly had 18 points. He went 1 of 6 in Game 4, and he went 4 of 7 in Game 3, and he still had 10 points. But 10.5 under is available at plus 150. We know that he's willing to rebound. We know he's willing to assist, but the shot has not been there, and I do wonder how effective the shot's going to be when he's going to be compromised and he might be losing some minutes as well. So I actually don't mind that. I think plus 150 is a good price there. Hart can still be impactful and have a crazy, 6.18 rebound game, and you're still fine. So I don't mind that. Give me Josh Hart under 10.5 points at plus 150. For my bonus dog, I'm trying to think of what I want to actually go with for this one. Let me just quickly see if I could find something that I'm actually tempted by. Trying to think if there's anything I might actually like here. I thought about maybe going with Brunson points if I wanted to actually do it, but I can't. It's at 35.5. There's no value.
Take the 40.
Nah, but no, that's what I'm saying. I'm not gonna automatically pick a 40 in a Game 7. I need more than 230. I need more than that. I just can't. Yeah. I can't get away with that. I thought about maybe doing Joker points with something. I can see Joker potentially going for a monster 35, but I don't know if I actually want to go about that. You know what? No, I'll do it. I'll go with the same game parlay with this Nuggets game for Joker. It might come back to bite me because Joker might have an absolute masterclass game, but I'll live with it. I'll go with Joker over 29.5 points, but I'm also going to parlay that with the under 8.5 assists at plus 249. If he's going to score 30, then that means I'm not expecting many other guys to step up. I think Joker's going to have to take it into his own hands. It means I'm kind of skeptical on the supporting cast actually doing anything in this game for either side. So I'm going to go with Joker over 29.5 points and under 8.5 assists at plus 249. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but I think it is pretty correlated.
Yeah, no, I think it is correlated, and that's all you can want in this. I would think about. I'm going to be loaded with player props, to be honest, because I have the only conviction I have, like real conviction on the side, is the Dallas game. So I'll be on a ton of player props. So I'm pretty sure we'll share some information going forward.
I thought about making a joke and parlaying Holiday with Reggie Jackson, just unders, but I don't see any Reggie Jackson lines on FanDuel, so I can't even do that. But I thought about it. Yeah, I do like the Holiday under 3.5. But
that's real Jonte Porter-ish right there.
If you wanted another interesting option, by the way, Anthony Edwards to lead the game in points is plus 150. If you do think Joker takes more of a facilitating role, but I just think Joker's going to go for it. And Minnesota's been good at preventing assists for most of the season against Joker. But either way, once again, we gave it a bonus pick there for the dog. That's going to wrap it up, though, for this episode. Lonte, we actually have to do an underdog lineup. So I do want to ask you, I'm not sure if underdog actually has the Game 7 lines yet, but the point is we can still create one as a what-if in theory. So I want the Shea rebounds and assists at 13.5. Is there anything that you want?
The one that I love is
you want Siakam to fall points at 21.
Yeah. I love Siakam points. That's the one I love the most.
So that's 2, and then we need one more.
What's the one that we agreed on? You got Shea.
Do you want to go for Josh Hart lower
PRA? Yeah. I love that one. Yeah, I love that one.
And that was at 28.5. Yeah. So that's going to be the 3 choices that we have for underdog. So once again, log into Underdog and sign up with the promo code NBASGPN, and you can join the plays with us. But until next time, we'll see if there's another Game 7 coming up, potentially if the Thunder pull off the upset in the Game 6 today. If they do, then we'll have a Game 7 episode, probably on Monday. If not, then we'll figure something out. But either way, Lonte, let the people know what else you're working on.
Yeah, hopefully, I think I got a couple articles coming out previewing these Game 7, so a lot of the information that we just touched on just be in written form. So I'm working on that right now. Outside of that, man, just looking forward to some series, the Eastern Conference Finals, Western Conference Finals as well. But yeah, man, hopefully we can get on the right side of these games. Hasn't been, like I said, I don't have a lot of conviction other than the Dallas game, but let's hope we can win some money this weekend and carry it over to next week.
Yeah, make sure you get your chores and errands done before the Game 7 start, because you're going to be glued for about 7 hours. So just keep that in mind. Until next time, though, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.